Extreme MAGA Republicans just don't threaten our personal and economic rights. They embrace political violence. Think about it. They refuse to accept the will of the people. They threaten our very democracy. That's not hyperbole. They threaten our very democracy. We're literally in a battle for America's soul. But I mean it. They threaten our very democracy. But I mean it. They embrace political violence. 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 But I mean it.
Well, everyone, hey, it is Duck Zoo. Folks, it's Sunday Night Live. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel, coming at you from Studio B live. We are live on the preparedmind.club. We're live on subscribestar.com, and we're live on the zoo, Duck Zoo. And guess what? On Sunday Night Live, this is your chance. That's right, folks, your chance. You get to be a star. You can ask a question, make a statement, bring up a point that everyone else has missed, or rehash a point that you think is important and we haven't paid enough attention to. All you've got to do is hit that super chat button up there and let us know what you think, right? Let's see. We've also got PayPal. We've also got CashApp. Anyways, folks, it's time to get down with it. I want to thank Mr. T for all the great work he's done with promos and I mean, just stuff like this. I mean, take a look at this material here, right? Charlie and the Chopstick Factory, right? That's the new normal for kids, right? It's enough to make me puke, but that title right there, that title could be, right, a book that ends up in your kid or your grandkid's school. It is unbelievable. Now, to drive that point home, I've got this little bit of information to share with you, right? There was a rally, a really nice rally, in fact, against what? Well, against child mutilation. Thousands and thousands of people, folks, turned out in Nashville and called for ending of child mutilation. Literally, folks, they're telling kids to destroy their bodies, and they're actually providing operations, drugs, to do just that. I mean, so this, while you would normally say, hey, that's one hell of a parody piece, right? Charlie and the Chopstick Factory. Well, in reality, that's exactly what they're practicing, folks. Every single kid that gets their genitals mutilated or gets their endocrine hormone system jacked up with drugs, they are forever destroyed and at the very least, right, harmfully mutilated. They're compromised. It's unbelievable. Now, I also have to say that, well, no conservative parent, no good parent would do that to their kid. So essentially, folks, the Democrats, these socialist types, they're taking themselves out of the gene pool. But don't worry. I mean, while we can take some solace in that, while we take no pleasure in it, these people will continue to find a way to throw it in your face. I mean, that's what gets me. They're always willing to throw it right in your face. Unbelievable what's going on. Hey, it is Sunday Night Live, and I want to get us up over 500 people live. So that internet address up there, share that with people right now. Friends, family, loved ones, it doesn't matter. Co-workers, I don't give a shit anymore. We need to get the word out. And folks, by the way, Our plan is working. It is, folks. Our plan is working. And the only thing they have on their side, on the Democrat side, is to steal the election. That's all they've got left. They're losing minorities. You bet they are. They're losing minorities. They're losing other, old school Democrats, like people, boomer generation, my generation. They're like, hey, this is so far off of what they thought liberalism was about. And then the kids, they're disenchanted too. They're like, wait a minute, we're getting screwed on this. We're going to have a lifetime of no electricity, massive inflation, government intrusion in our lives. It's like, yeah, well, you wanted it, you little bastards, and now you're going to get it. All righty. I tell you, folks, there's no way for them to win this, so they're going to try and steal it. It's coming, folks. It's coming. I mean, let's talk about it just briefly here. Right? Just briefly. They're starting to catch them. Now, Americans, good, law-abiding, tax-paying Americans that love America and don't want to destroy America like the Democrats, they're watching. They're watching these election drop boxes. And it's making the Democrats mad. They don't like that they're being watched. But they caught some guy covering his license plate so he can pull up to one and go dump a bunch of ballots and drive off. Now, I was pretty sure that covering your license plate is against the law. Now, it may not be a crime that can get you sent to jail, but I think intentionally covering your license plate could get you some kind of a ticket. Well, they're willing to risk getting a ticket as long as they can shove a bunch of ballots in the mailbox. But I think, folks, we need to do and continue to do exactly what's happening. That's watch these people. And if someone covers their license plate, I think that you would have a right to go uncover it. Don't you? They're trying to hide their identity. I mean, for all we know, that's a stolen vehicle. We need to get a look at that license plate and see if it's stolen or not. They don't have a right to cover their license plate. Now, I mean, they could just take it off altogether. Now, maybe if they were a little smarter, they would take it off altogether and say, oh, yeah, here's the license plate right here on the seat, officer. Sorry about that. My kid was playing around with my tools and took it off for me, but I'll get it on right away. See, there it is right on the passenger seat. But for now, they're trying to cover them. For now, they're driving around looking for drop boxes that are not being watched. And trust me, they're finding those, and that's where they're taking their ballots. Yes, folks, the Democrats are trying to steal another election. That's the last they've got. Their candidates suck. They're losing their voter base, right? The old, the young, the minorities, all they have left are hardcore socialists and people who are being paid to get votes. Now, as with just about every single Sunday Night Live, we started off with Darcy T. And right in line with what we do every week, she starts off with a $50 super chat donation through PayPal. She says, good evening, John. No questions, just sending a little cabbage your way. Thanks for fighting the good fight. I tell you what, Darcy, thank you. Fighting the good fight, right? She doesn't have a question, but Darcy brings up a terrific topic, right? If you're gonna live on this planet, it looks like we're gonna have to fight, folks. Like the left says silence is violence, and so if you don't stick up and fight their fight, then you're an evil bastard. And if you fight them, then you're an evil bastard. So you can't be silent. And I don't think you can fight against yourself. That's self-destructive. So if you're going to stand there, you may as well fight. And if you're going to fight, you may as well fight the good fight. Right? Fight for what is right. Stand for what's right, or don't stand at all. Here we are, folks, and it's getting that close. We're less than 3 weeks away. Less than 3 weeks away. Like 2 weeks and 2 days. Was it 2 weeks and 2 days? I think so. 2 weeks and 2 days till Election Day. And we may not have a standard broadcast. I may be standing in line at a polling place trying to get my vote in the old-fashioned way. And in fact, speaking of that, I read an article over the weekend. And folks, I scour the internet all over the place looking for news articles no one else is talking about. It's pretty interesting, right? There's a lawsuit somewhere in the country that's being threatened that, yeah, it's in it's in Arizona. I think the Secretary of State is threatening to sue a county if they dare to do a hand count on their election. Can you believe that? Doing it the right way, the most safe way, the sanest way, the most reliable way, counting votes by hand. Let's see, a vote for a Republican over here, a vote for a Democrat over there. How hard is that? Then you get done separating them, you tally them up. Something like that. How hard is that? Unbelievable. Democrats don't want that. They want, let's see, internet-connected electronic voting machines that have pre-programmed systems in them that can be triggered to change votes and swing them from one side to the other. You and I, we learned our lesson, did we not? I mean, I have no doubt. We learned our lesson. The voting machines, folks, are crap. Absolute crap. They can be hacked. They gather information. They send it to China. They're on the internet. They can be uploaded. There's programs in there that can be triggered. What else do we have to learn? I mean, it's obvious what they're being used for, to take elections away from those who have won it and give it to those who the powers that be want in office. To me, it doesn't seem far-fetched. This is really Orwellian. This just falls right in line with every Nazi dream that ever was out there. Unbelievable what is going on. I mean, now what happened 2 years ago? There was an election. One political candidate really put up a stink. His name was Trump, right? The American people, well, they put up a stink too. And they called their congressmen, they called their senators, they called their bureaucrats, they called their states, they called everybody and said, hey, on January 6th, we want to put a stop to this. This is baloney. When an election is bad, you re-vote. Well, we've come full circle now, folks. Right? They have had an investigation into what happened. Right? The January 6th committee run by Liz Piggy Cheney. But instead of investigating the election, they decided to investigate the violence that resulted from abuse of protesters. So Liz Cheney has subpoenaed President Trump and said, you will come and testify before me, right? Calling him before her as if, pearls before swine, I guess. But guess what she's not going to do? She's not going to allow the Trump testimony to be televised, and says he will testify under oath. Fascinating, folks. Do you see the arrogance on her part? She's had how much time to do all this investigating? 2 years almost. Almost 2 years the Democrats and Rhino, Republican name only, Liz Cheney, have had to find evidence of real insurrection, and they haven't had it. They have made up crap. They have doctored footage. They have edited footage. They've done everything they can to try and convince the American people that President Trump was trying to overthrow the American government and take control of it. And still, to this day, they have not been able to do anything like, come up with real evidence enough to what? Try and convict him. Imagine this. If they had one piece of evidence, they would use that to press charges and arrest him. One piece of evidence of a misdemeanor, and they would arrest him, because you can arrest people for misdemeanors. So he's going to testify under oath. The testimony will not be televised. So I hope he goes to this. I hope he very politely calls her every dirty name in the book. I really hope he does. She has earned nothing but our scorn and his scorn. She is such a nasty, nasty anti-American POS that a state that she should own, Wyoming, disowned her. That's right, folks. She lost. She didn't lose in the general election. She lost in the primary to a no-name Republican, Liz Cheney, right? Liz Piggy Cheney, daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, with all her name recognition, with all her money, with all her power, with all her influence, got smashed, crushed in a primary in Wyoming. Unfreaking stinking believable. All right, let's do this. Let's check in with some super chats. Who do we have up? Number 2, we've got Timothy Mahoney with a $4.99 super chat donation. He says, "What's up, John? Sorry I've missed the past couple of shows. Been traveling Europe with my hot Latino girlfriend." He says, "Ready for the show." I tell you what, man, I hope you had a good time with your hot Latino girlfriend. Really, seriously. Hope you had a good time. Hope she had a good time. But I tell you what, Tim, you traveled Europe. I would love to know, number 1, what Europeans think of the political race going on right now. Do they want to see the Republicans win, or does the standard European have any idea or see any difference between Republicans and Democrats? I know they're across the pond, right? They're in Europe. Do they know about our politics to that extent? Now, I'm sure someone like Rami Marsh, I'm sure he's well aware of our politics because he tunes in on a regular basis. But what about the average European? Is the average European so strapped for cash, right, that all they can do is take a walk in the park and hope they don't have to pay parking fees, right? What's going on in Europe? What's their attitude about, of course, the deal with Russia? Now, I actually spent some time this weekend. Yes, I did. I spent some time this weekend watching, I think it was Vice News. Yes, it was. It was Vice News. I wanted to see some anti-Russian propaganda. And so there was a news crew inside of Russia investigating, inquiring, interviewing Russians who were going to be drafted, ones that were drafted, and their attitudes about it. Now, interestingly, one of them said he was very glad to be serving his country, didn't have any problems with it, found the 24-hour notice a bit short. And others were more than happy to say they didn't agree with the draft. They didn't like the war. They think Putin's scum. Well, they didn't quite, not really quite able to say that. One complained that when he was protesting against what Putin was doing, that he was arrested and beaten and threatened. And his girlfriend was threatened. And she even got beaten a little bit. Now, I found that rather disturbing. I did. I thought, man, that's awful that the Russian police, the Russian military police over there would take a protester who did not like what was going on and go to arrest them, kicked in his door, beat the shit out of him, right, and arrested him, and then beat up and roughed up his girlfriend for protesting against that. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, what about January 6th? Where our police over here initiated, and started attacking patriotic Americans who were on Capitol Hill. They were launching rubber bullets, flashbang grenades. They were using chemical agents on them and assaulting them physically, and then they arrested them. Several people were killed by the police. And when I recalled that, I thought, yeah, Russia, they're fucked up. They're a bunch of assholes. And then I thought about Zelensky and his military police and the fact that the Azov battalion has committed war atrocities and been murdering and slaughtering ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine. And I thought about how Zelensky will not allow anyone to criticize him. And they will take your money, take your house, take your property, and throw your ass in jail. And I'm sure you'll get a good beating in the meantime. And so when I thought about that, Russia, and I thought about Zelensky in Ukraine, then I thought about what happens in America when you stand up and you stand up for what's right. I thought, yeah, we are no better. Now, not you and I. You are fine. I am just fine. I respect everyone's rights. I don't go around stomping people. I don't go around throwing them in jail. I don't make up false charges and throw people in prison and hold them there indefinitely and then give them a show trial. It's unbelievable, folks. I don't do anything wrong. You don't, but we can see what our government does in Washington, D.C. We can see what crazy, stupid, moronic, right, Liz Piggy Cheney is doing. She has no evidence of any crime, but she wants to bring Trump to Washington, D.C. just days before the election in the hopes that she could say something that makes him look bad. Or perhaps she's going to try to have him arrested on some bullshit charge and then use it as political capital in the upcoming election in an effort to what? Inspire Democrats to go out and vote? Time and time again, all the Democrats and Liz Cheney and the mainstream media, all they have done is pissed off people and driven them at the Republican Party. That's what's happened. It's created the exact opposite effect. The call for a Republican sweep of the House and the Senate is growing stronger as we get closer to the election. It's not going the other way. It's not tightening up. And I'm sure the pollsters will say, oh, it's tightening up as usual. In the last week, the Democrats are closing the rolls, right? Closing the ranks. Right now, folks, they're voting their asses off. Dead dogs are voting. Dead people are voting. They're voting multiple times. People who can't spell their name, they can't read, they can't write, they're too old, they're doddering. They're voting en masse. You bet. Expect more of that. Why? Because you can always count on the Democrats to pull that type of shit. Unfreaking believable. But we're best served by believing it. I want to thank everyone, folks, everyone who has stood up for America and stood up for what's right. Unbelievable. Let's do this. Let's take another super chat donation, super chat question. And it is Chin Music with $19.99, a great super chat donation. He says, after the Danchenko trial, it's obvious the Department of Justice under Garlic Marin. His name is Merrick Garland, but Chin Music called him Garlic Marin, which is fucking funny. All right, after the Danchenko trial, he was the former FBI agent who is all wrapped up like a twig in bicycle spokes. He's all wrapped up in the phony Russian collusion, Russia-Trump story. Anyways, it's obvious that the Department of Justice under Garlic Marin has declared, quote, show the man and I will find you the crime, as opposed to show me the crime and I will find you the man. Thoughts? Well, basically what Chin Music is saying is Garlic Marin, Attorney General for the United States, is basically saying, show me the man, whether it's Trump or whether it's, just pick a political figure. Alex Jones, right? How about, there's so many to name. How about Big Marge? Right? Name anyone, Trump, name anyone, and they'll find a way. They'll find a crime and try and pin it to him. Right? Show the man and I will find you the crime. It used to be, show me the crime and I will find the man. In other words, the evidence from a crime should lead you to who did it. Not, there's a man and now I need to find a crime that's associated with him. Unbelievable, folks. This is not, it's not supposed to be Soviet Union with the Gestapo from Nazi Germany joining them, right? It's not supposed to be the KGB coming after us. You know, I mean, we had the Matt Gaetz, representative out of Florida, Republican Matt Gaetz, had a member of the Department of Justice, a former FBI agent, was found guilty of, right? Or evidence supported that he was extorting, I think to the tune of $20 or $25 million, trying to extort out of Matt Gaetz, saying he committed crimes. Once again, they found someone they don't like, Matt Gaetz. They manufactured a crime. They tried getting him to participate in an extortion scheme that I'm sure they would have just loved to have turned into something even bigger. It's the whole thing. It's farcical and it's also frightening what they're doing in our countries, folks. Wow. Thank you, Chin Music. Garlic Marin. Wonderful. All right, Jolene, who do we want to put up next? And it is William C. with a $5 super chat donation. He says, Trump's fault, he lost. He did not fire Wray and he did not fire Barr. They kicked us and Trump on his way out. Wray and Barr are both traitors. Now, he's speaking of Chris Wray or Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, and William Barr, former Attorney General of the United States of America. It is Trump's fault that he lost. Sure, why not? Why not blame him? He had the most power, the most authority. President Trump, more so than me or you could ever dream of having. He could have fired the Attorney General. He could have fired the FBI. He has incredible power as the president. But he was trying, in my opinion, to thread the needle. Right? He believed that people around him were on his side. And I have to believe, folks, that they were lying to him. They were lying the way liars love to lie, right? They got Trump to believe that they weren't liars, to believe that they could be trusted. William Barr, lifelong political pile of crap, an attorney, right? Sure sounded like he had a lot of integrity, but I think you and I have learned the lesson as much as Trump. And that's that these career scumbags in Washington, D.C. cannot be trusted. I mean, look at what happens when you have some integrity. General Michael Flynn attacked, arrested, framed, attempted to throw him in prison. Roger Stone, political ally, attacked by these people. I mean, who else do we have up there? Right? Who else tried sticking up? Peter Navarro just jumped up and down and went after Dr. Anthony Fauci over HCQ and over horse paste and over the Jim Jones juice and all the nonsense. And it's incredible, folks, how that little runt of a man, Dr. Evil himself, right? That little runt of a man claims that he had nothing to do with any decisions that were made. At the same time saying, oh, no, the pandemic's not over. It's a long way from over. It's never going to be over. Who is he to make that proclamation? Who is he? As far as I'm concerned, he's a complete, total, untrustworthy scumbag, anti-American, anti-human. But that's just my opinion. Right? I guess I'm a little too harsh sometimes. Well, you guys have great topics here you're bringing up on The Prepared Mind, Sunday Night Live, at the zoo. I tell you, folks, unbelievable. You guys nail it every time with your questions, topics. I've got a bunch lined up, but I want to hear what you have to think. And we're right on the cusp of breaking 500 people live after 30 minutes. Show me where President Biden on YouTube gets that many people live. Right? Never does he get that many people live. He just doesn't. The president of the United States gets fewer people live than we get. And he can't hold an audience any longer than he can hold his urine back or from crapping his own pants. That's how far off base that clown is. Unbelievable. Let's do this. Let's do another super chat question, and it's Cottage Farm with a $100 super chat donation. Cottage Farm, you are the cat's ass or the cat's meow. You're the kitty cat. Anyways, I completely lost it on that. $100 kind of just blows me away. So she has this topic, and this was one I wasn't sure how I wanted to react to it. And she says, preaching to the choir. And I tell you what, we need to reinforce the choir, right? I know we're all singing the same song like a choir. That's good. But imagine if we were all in the stands, right? We're all up in the bleachers in the choir, and no one was singing. We would all kind of look around at each other and like, well, we know the words. Doesn't anyone believe in them? No one's saying a word. We're the choir, but we're not singing. We all need to be singing is the point. Yeah, preach to the choir and let the choir sing, and we need to sing to every single person we know out there. And the people that don't want to sing, well, they may have good reason. But if you don't have a reason not to, I really recommend that you do. People need to hear the truth. They need to hear the facts. And here's a big, big fact. And Cottage Farm brings it up. 25 days of diesel left in the United States of America. Now, that number came out this weekend in several news reports. And I want to know, right? I want to know, what the hell does that mean? 25 days of diesel. Sounds to me like that number's dropping. 25 days of diesel. Why aren't we getting the fuel, folks? Diesel is more expensive than ever. Gasoline is more expensive than ever. People are driving less and less and less. They don't drive unless they have to, yet the price stays high and we have less fuel. Let me talk about what diesel is. Diesel powers ships, cargo ships. Diesel powers rail cars, trains. Diesel powers semi-trucks, as well as the little trucks that we drive around, the little 3/4 ton and 1 ton diesel trucks. Diesel powers and supplies and makes America the country that it is. Without it, we don't have cargo ships bringing us materials. Without it, diesel electromotives will not move down the tracks. Moving cargo from here to there, moving your food from where it's made and stored to your store where you can go get it in your gas or diesel powered vehicle. Unbelievable that we're down to 25 days of diesel left in this country. Are they replacing it? Are they going to crank up the production? What is going on, folks? For my entire life, for the last 50 years, there has been more than enough diesel, more than enough gasoline, with the exception of the energy crisis in the 70s. But wait a minute, maybe there's a connection. Every 50 years, folks, they want to play a big game with us. Every 50 years, they want to change things up. So in 1929, right, the 1920s, they ran the economy up with the roaring 20s, and then they crashed it with the Great Depression. Right? Approximately 50 years later, right, they took us off the gold standard, and we had the 70s crash, where there was a fuel crisis and huge inflation. And here we are, approximately 50 years later again. And they're creating another crisis. This is fabricated. There is no reason, because there's plenty of oil. They just don't want to take it to the refineries. In fact, what has Biden been doing? He's been sending our strategic petroleum reserves overseas. This is fabricated, folks. It's not an accident. This is intentional. It's not because they don't know what they're doing in the oil industry and the refining industry. and the storage industry and the infrastructure industry. This is being done on purpose. If we don't have diesel fuel, we don't have ships, we don't have trains, we don't have semi-trucks. If we don't have diesel fuel, we will not have food. You won't have food delivered this year. And guess what else runs on diesel? Are you ready? Farming. Farming runs on diesel. Every single farm has diesel tractors, and one diesel tractor, folks, does the work of 1,000 men in a day. It is incredible what a gallon of diesel fuel will do in the creation of food. Diesel fuel powers the water pumps that pump water out of the ground or out of ditches or out of rivers into agricultural fields to irrigate them and feed the plants that feed us and feed the plants that feed livestock. That is chickens, cows, pork, sheep, etc. I hope you've got food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Because if this number, this 25 days that Cottage Farm just talked about, if that number drops to 20, then 15, then 10, then 5, you know before it gets to 0, there's going to be areas of the country that run dry first. There's going to be areas of the country that run dry first. Who is going to run dry first? What's it going to mean to you when you drive down the street and you look and that gas station is closed, or that truck stop has orange pylons out at the road and it's closed? We've got some big freaking trouble on our hands, folks. I think we're going to hit 600 people live on this show. We're at 560 to 570, and that number's bouncing higher because this information matters. You are sharing that internet address, and it matters. We've got a lot to talk about, folks. A lot of great information. And this is Sunday Night Live. It is Duck Duck Zoo. Sunday Night Live, meaning you guys. It's up to you to determine what we talk about. This is your show. Now, I'm the one speaking. I've got my opinion. Right? But you guys are the ones that get to ask the questions. This is your chance to bring up topics that matter most to you. 25 days of diesel left in this country. Well, that's pretty freaking important to me too. Thank you very much, Cottage Farm, for that excellent super chat donation. Now let's do this. Who is next with a question? Jolene. We've got William Nicker with a $9.99 super chat donation. He says, "Hi, John. Any validity to a rumor I heard about former U.S. and British pilots training Chinese pilots to fight?" If it's a rumor, there's some truth to it. Is it absolutely true? I don't know. But I am going to bring this up. Okay? I want to bring up this to consider. I don't know if U.S. and British pilots are training Chinese pilots, but I do know that Supreme Court justices of the United States of America accept money to do speaking engagements at colleges, and they take money to speak around the world. Supreme Court justices, what? Right? They get to do that. They get to take their opinion and sell it. Well, what if I paid Justice Kavanaugh $5 million to come speak to me about, I don't know, the Fourth Amendment? I'm sure he would put together a marvelous, brilliant speech on the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I'm sure it would be incredible. But really, $5 million, what was just purchased? Half an hour of his time for $5 million? How about our politicians? How about our bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., U.S. senators, members of the banking cartel at the Federal Reserve, U.S. representatives from the House? They get to go to the World Economic Forum over in Europe and meet with them. They get to meet at the Bilderbergs right? They get to meet with these shady, shadowy, clandestine, and dark figures. And boy, do they get money from them? Right? So we hear from presidents also, like President Clinton and other presidents. They go on speaking tours and do speaking engagements. It's fascinating, folks, how people, well, they're willing to work for our enemy or accept money from them. So would it be surprising if fighter pilots or any airline pilots would be willing to go and train the Chinese? I mean, after all, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, every major sport kisses China's ass. Major network television stations kiss China's ass. When was the last time you heard CNN do a hit piece on China for using Uyghur slave labor in labor camps, imprisoning folks, people that they don't like politically or religiously, and keeping them in prison just for that, just because of their political or religious beliefs or thoughts? Right? That's what China does. Who is criticizing them? Anyone? 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 No. Right? They'll take their money, though. If any of these people in the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, name your fucking thing, if they accidentally say something that offends the Chinese, guess what? Within 5 minutes, like, for example, John Cena, 5 minutes, they're like, hello, Mr. Cena. Hello, NBA player. We want you to retract your statement, apologize, promise never to do that again, or we're not going to give you money. In other words, these people are all for sale. Whether or not they sell themselves is something entirely different. Are all pilots training Chinese pilots? No. But some might be. Are all politicians selling out to globalist scumbag anti-American socialists? No, not all of them, but enough of them are. And you just might hear their names on TV. They're very famous. Like when Nancy Pelosi flew her little ass over to Taiwan, which pissed off the Chinese, which created a situation. Or when Nancy Pelosi flew her little ass over to Ukraine to meet with Zelensky. That's right, folks. They seem to fly over to countries where they have some sort of vested interest that they don't want to talk about. And oh yeah, insider trading, that's allowed. Nancy loves that stuff. They'll enrich themselves any way they can. Folks, so basically what it comes down to is morality. When I was a kid, you did not side with communists. You did not side with socialists. And that's exactly what the Soviet Union was. A bunch of socialist communists. Unbelievable. Unbelievable indeed. Okay, let's take another look. Who wants to step up next? And it's Timothy Mahoney with a $19.99 super chat donation. He says, honestly, people here seem to have their head in the sand about everything. The concern about freezing their asses off seems to be the main concern, but people are still shopping and buying stuff they don't need. All right. I think you're talking about just Americans in general. Honestly, let me read it that way. People here in America seem to have their heads in their sand about everything. I think their heads in their asses, Tim. He says the concern about freezing their asses off seems to be the main concern. Let's see. Honestly, people there seem to have their head in the sand. Because I asked Timothy about Europeans and what they're worried about. Very good. See, thank you again there, Jolene. Go ahead and let's put Timothy's comments back up. Honestly, people there seem to have their head in the sand about everything. The concern about freezing their asses off seems to be the main concern. That should be a main concern in Europe. And I pointed out many times, we tend to think in America that here's America, and Europe is about the same latitude or distance from the equator. Actually, here's America, and Europe is like Canada height. It's way up here. It's much colder, much higher. And we just topped 600 people live. Topped 600. That is awesome. I want it to go even higher. Now, back to Timothy Mahoney's statement. Freezing their asses off seems to be the main concern, and it should be. They don't have enough energy in Europe. They don't have enough natural gas because of what was done to the Nord Stream pipelines. They don't seem to have enough oil. They don't seem to have enough fuels. It's crazy. But he says people are still shopping and buying stuff they don't need. That's incredible. I wonder, Timothy, did you go to where locals shop, or were you in mainly tourist areas? Were you in big cities? And what about small towns? It's interesting that you were able to observe that. And I'm really glad that you did, to see that their attitude was kind of laissez-faire, as in, well, you know, the people in charge, they'll figure it out. We kind of have that attitude here in America. Oh, yeah, you know, we have an election coming up. They'll fix everything. You really think so? You think they're going to fix everything? See, November 8th, we have elections. November 9th, we're going to have a plan. And when everyone is sworn in and seated in Congress, all problems will be taken care of. I don't believe that, not for a second. Mitch McConnell, the senator for the United States Republicans, he has no intention of doing anything different or better. Right, the head of the House of Representatives, right? What's his name? Right, Kevin McCarthy. That guy, yeah. We're expecting him to stand up for us. The guy who wanted to tell Trump, hey, you better resign, pal. You need to leave. Right, that guy who says, no, we're not going to impeach anybody. Nothing's going to change. We need to get our heads out of our asses, if not out of the sand, right? We need to wake up. The Europeans, they better do the same thing. Now, a lot of people in Europe are protesting. They're protesting the war in Ukraine. They're protesting the energy issues. They're protesting the bugs. They're protesting the demand to shut down farming. They're doing their protesting. They're protesting cerveza bug guidelines, mandates, Jim Jones juice. They're protesting. But still, they're going out and buying stuff. They're spending money on stuff. You know what that tells me? That just like America, there is a big percentage of people who just don't pay any attention and think that everything's just fine. We run out of fuel. We run out of diesel. The trains sit idle on the tracks and the trucks sit on the side of the road out of fuel. It won't take long, folks. It won't take long. Now, conversely, you could make the argument, well, the people are too freaking stupid to know any better. People right now are keeling over, dying. Keeling over, dying. Right? Keeling over, a boat that tilts on its side, right? The keel comes out of the water, keeling over. Right? What do you think is going on? Right? I want you to take a wild guess. Take a wild freaking guess, right? Sponsored by the Jim Jones juice. Now, Red Hot Chili Peppers lead vocalist, right, is upset. He went on the Joe Rogan show to talk about this. A fan that they met, a Chili Peppers fan, said she was bright, brilliant, smart, energetic, had all kinds of nice things to say about her. And somehow he discovered that she died suddenly. And this is what the Red Hot Chili Peppers dude said. Quote, young people are just dying these days. And I say, well, take a wild guess, man. So, I mean, the point of me reading that is not just to show off the new, work that Mr. T has done, but to say, man, it's happening right in front of our face. We all see it. We all see it. Yet nothing is being done to correct it. People go on with their lives and pretend like everything's fine. If I just ignore that shit over there, I'm not going to see it. It's fine. Folks, here we go, right? When I read this, I wasn't baffled. I'm not baffled at it a bit, right? And it doesn't take a wild guess for me, right? An 18-year-old athlete during tennis practice had a massive heart attack. Unbelievable. 18-year-old athlete, tennis player from Rochester, Indiana, folks. He was finishing warm-up laps, meaning he went for a little run. He's a tennis player. And folks, I used to play tennis in high school. I'd play it with my brother, and we would just battle it out. You know, you'd be winded. I would be just red in the face. You're so hot and tired. There's no sweat coming out you anymore. We would do that in the summer. But here we have this kid, right? Has a fucking heart attack. Yeah. You know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers lead singer, you bet he's right on with that. People are just dying, but everyone's got their head in the sand. They've got their head in the sand, and they got their head up their asses, and they're not paying attention. They're pretending like everything will be fine. They just want everything to stop and go away. Just go away. I don't want to hear about this, right? No, that's not how it should be. It just isn't, but that's how it is. When will people wake up? Now, you're wide awake. I sure hope you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Whether you're in Europe or America or Canada or Mexico, it doesn't matter. Anywhere around the world, in Australia, England, it doesn't matter, right? Shit is getting bad. But most people don't want to accept that, and they want to instead pretend everything's fine. How well do you think they're going to do when the trains stop? When there's no electricity coming through the wires because of what these politicians are doing, their great reset move. Every day we battle it, folks. You and I, we battle to wake people up. But no one is fixing the errors that the government and the Great Reset are doing. They're continuing to push forward their plans to force people to eat bugs, to make children convinced that they should hate themselves, their parents, their culture, and their genitals. They're doing everything they can, and they're not quitting. They're not backing off. Unbelievable. All right, Jolene, let's do this. Let us step up and take a look at who is next. And it is Lisa Reef. She is now a YouTube member supporting the channel. And I want to thank you very much, Lisa. The more people we have here supporting us, whether it's on thepreparedmind.club, which I think is the best way to support the channel. We also have Subscribestar and, of course, YouTube. And I want to thank everyone for getting people on. There it is right there. Pow. And we've got 633 people live. And I want to welcome everyone. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the thumbs up button, because that tells YouTube people are interested in these topics right here. They're interested in this channel, The Prepared Mind, which is part of the Prepared Mind Network, right? We have, if you want food, water, shelter, clothing, you want all those prepper items, we have the preparedmind.club, right? That's your store. That's your store. You can go there and buy items. You can shop for items. You can see what we have, what we've tested, what we approve. There are thousands of you folks, 80,000 YouTube subscribers. We can't all be wrong if we're talking about these topics right here. And I don't just sit on one topic, folks. I cover everything. I spend an incredible amount of time with you guys looking at emails, studying information. I work my ass off just like you guys do, but I want to have the best handle I do on what is happening. So let's do this. Let's get a handle on the next thing. What do you have? We've got Mr. Skylight with a $49.99 super chat donation. And here's his quote. When people speak ill of you, live so that nobody will believe them. Oh, that is just fucking brilliant. That is from Plato, a very famous Greek philosopher. Plato, who also talked about Atlantis. And thousands of years later, the words he wrote are still a mystery and still being investigated. Seriously investigated. Millions, if not billions of dollars being spent to investigate the words of Plato, when we can just listen to a very simple statement. When people speak ill of you, live so that nobody will believe them. So, if somebody, man, were to call me a hypocrite, I guess I should live and do what I do and prove that I'm not. Something like that. Anyways, Mr. Skylight, I kind of get it. It makes perfect sense to me. Right? Now, if someone says you're immoral, live your life morally, and they cannot, right, convince anyone else that you're immoral, that you've taken the wrong path. If you know what moral, decency is and being moral is, then no one would believe that. In other words, those that would criticize us, when their words are examined and compared to the facts, they'll fall to the ground. There's nothing to support them. So live well, be good. And in this day and age, I think being a prepper is probably extremely advisable, right? To the north, south, east, and west of me, there are preppers everywhere that I'm aware of. And I love it. I love that there are patriots to the east, west, north, and south of me as well. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how many good people there are. Yet on television, what do we have? In education, what do we have? In court systems, what do we have? In the Justice Department, what do we have? We have those people in government and media trying to say that we're bad, that being patriotic and being American is wrong. They speak ill of us. Yet what do? We live well. And I don't mean living well like we're eating lobster and filet mignon every meal. We live well, or we live by the standards that cannot be looked down upon. We obey the law. We pay our taxes. Right? We don't harm others. We're not stealing from anyone. We're not trying to destroy anyone else. They're the ones doing that to us. Right? So maybe we could look at Plato's, shall we say, wisdom and say, when people speak ill of you, it probably means that they have a problem with themselves and they know it. Right. When someone accuses you of something, in fact, we see this all the time from the Democrat socialists, all the time from the Democrat communists, right? They're accusing Trump. They're accusing Republicans. They're accusing patriotic Americans of criminal activity, of violence. In fact, I mean, didn't we start out the show with President Biden saying some things?
Extreme MAGA Republicans just don't threaten our personal and economic rights. They embrace political violence. Think about it. They refuse to accept the will of the people. They threaten our very democracy. That's not hyperbole. They threaten our very democracy. We're literally in a battle for America's soul. But I mean it. They threaten our very democracy. But I mean it. They embrace political violence.
We embrace political violence? No, that would be Antifa and BLM and their supporters, George Soros and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They say we make America great again, Republicans. We threaten the economy. Unbelievable. But yeah, that's just a great example of how they accuse us. They speak ill of us. Right. Anyways, he says we have a splinter in our eye. Perhaps he ought to take the plank out of his. All right, Jolene, who do we have next on the Prepared Mind show? We've got Danny Walters with a $1.99 super chat donation. And folks, that goes into the GTFB and SB fund. Whew, get the fuck back and stay back, folks. We're getting ready here at the Prepared Mind Network. You're getting ready in your town, in your community, in your house. Right? We have to start where we're at with ourselves and get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. I sure hope you're ready. 5 days left. Is that a scare tactic? Is that fear porn? Or is that a fact? Well, apparently it's a fact. What it means is times are not great. What are the actual consequences? We're going to find out. We always find out. Now, I tell you what, I've got a bunch of topics I've been just dying to dig into. And it is these leftist lunatics. Now, lately, they've been doing what? These eco-warrior morons, right? They've been throwing paint at artwork. They've been gluing themselves to the showroom floors. They've been gluing themselves to the road in England, right? Literally, they glue themselves to the road in England. A lot of people, and I wasn't one of them, but a lot of people said, fine, run them over. They glued themselves to the floor of a Porsche dealership in Germany and then got mad because, well, no one would provide them a bedpan to take a piss in or take a crap in. Well, hey, you glued yourself to the floor, idiot. You made your own bed, lie in it. Anyways, it continues. These off the hook, unhinged activist morons. This time, they've thrown paint at a Monet painting. Now, what cracks me up about this when they attack art isn't art supposed to be just an emotional expression of the human condition? I mean, Monet, he was around at a time prior to the electrification of the world, the mega industrialization, prior to the automobile. Right? Wasn't Monet from the 1800s? Unbelievable, right? He is pre-oil world art. But they want to do that. They want to throw paint, and they now, wisely so, now they have covered, any artwork with protective glass. And at this point in the game, I'd be surprised if the real works of art were even allowed to be on display. Like, they should put up replicas, high quality replicas, real paint, right? Real brushes to make them, but replicas nonetheless. I mean, we are, after all, just peasants and peons. We can't really appreciate the true artwork itself. So why not have a fake, a double, a copy, right? And I mean, if I were to look at a Monet, I wouldn't be able to tell a fake from a real one. I would try and appreciate the Impressionist work. And in all truth, I really don't care for Impressionism. But what the hell? I'm more along the line of Baroque. I like that older stuff, Renaissance type stuff. Anyways, ding dongs, all of them. All of these wackos, folks, they are wacko. Okay, let's do this. Let's do another super chat question. And we've got William C. with a $10 super chat donation. He says, you have stated that the U.S. has 100 years of oil energy left. I agree, but the low-lying fruit is all but gone. Oil 5 miles below the surface is left. My estimate is it will take $300 per barrel to get it. I've heard 100 years of oil. I've heard 250 years of oil. I have heard 100 years of oil, but that is with increasing growth at the same rate we've been increasing. In other words, right, we're going to continue to use more and more oil, so the available reserves is going to go away. I think it's there, right? The United States government says it's there. But it's deeper, it's harder to get, it's more expensive. I believe that. William says his estimate is it'll take $300 per barrel to get it, to make it cost effective. Now, that is a question that's going to be coming up, right? Like the oil in Venezuela. It's very deep. It's not the best crude. It's low quality. It's heavy. It's got a bunch of crap in it. And so it costs more to refine. It costs more to get, costs more to refine. I understand that. I understand the potentials and problems with that. I do have my own opinion as to what the salvation is. If anyone cares to take a big chance, I would recommend investing in a company, any company that produces a hydrogen-powered engine. But it's going to be several years before they really start talking about it, right? They need to crush the American economy, the European economy. They need to crush the world with their great reset before they introduce, right, the next big turn, if you will. And I think the next big turn is not going to be electric vehicles. There's going to be hybrid vehicles. But I think hydrogen is going to be the fuel of the future. And that the way that hydrogen is produced is by using nuclear energy to produce it, to desalinate water, to produce hydrogen, and to produce electricity. I think that is the future. For now, they're going to continue to play this game with oil. We've got, it doesn't matter whether you know what the solution and answer is. What matters is the political will to make it happen. Some people would argue, William, that, yeah, we have 100 years or 200 years of oil in America, and it's not that deep, but it's obvious to see that Biden doesn't want us to get it. Canada can produce oil from their oil sands and put it in a pipeline. It was called the Keystone Pipeline, and ship it down here at a tremendously good discount, a huge cost, under what we're paying now. But Biden killed that. He absolutely killed it. It's interesting, for decades, right? They plan these things. For years and years, they go through all the permitting trouble, all of the right-of-way stuff, all paying for easements. And then they just say, fuck it, and just kill it with one pen stroke on the first day of the Biden administration. How much thought did Joe Biden put into killing the Keystone Pipeline, folks? How much thought do you think he put into it? How many months, weeks, days, hours of study do you think Joe Biden put into whether or not to kill the Keystone Pipeline? I'm going to tell you, my belief is that he had less than 60 seconds of thought ever invested in the Keystone Pipeline. He was told, in my opinion, my guesstimate, he was told this thing called the Keystone Pipeline, day one, you're going to sign a piece of paper killing the project. And that's all Joe Biden had to know. His handlers, his bosses told him to kill it. So any idea that there is cheap oil out there, readily available oil, inexpensive oil to get, right? Any belief in that has now been crushed. It's gone. Man, talk about just a messed up situation. All right, let's do this. Jolene, who do we have up next as we break further into our second hour on this Sunday Night Live? And it is Cottage Farm back again with a $20 Super Chat donation. And she says, Biden guaranteed $70 per barrel because demand is low. I want Trump's oil prices back. I tell you, it's incredible. I watched a movie. And it was like a 40-year-old movie. Folks, it was Vacation. National Lampoon's Vacation. Clark W. Griswold was pulling off of Santa Monica Boulevard into a gas station, which is Southern California, Los Angeles. And 40 years ago, the price was $2 a gallon for gas. Right, early 80s, and now we're in the early 2020s. 40 years later, under Trump, we had, right, in other parts of the country, $2 gas. Still, that was under Trump. That was with the oil coming out of Canada at a huge discount. Trump was trying to work on a deal to get cheap Russian oil as well. And the Democrats killed that. Right? Demand is low. The only thing keeping demand low is the high price. And Biden is guaranteeing $70 per barrel. How come we're paying such huge prices at the pump? Why do we only have 25 days of diesel left? Yeah, I think this is bigger than Biden. I don't think Biden is much more than a stooge for the, he's the front man. He's the puppet in front of the curtain. We've got huge, huge, huge problems coming. Cottage Farm, I want to thank you again for your support, for bringing up this topic. Energy, as that she is bringing up. Energy is what matters. Energy moves us from our home to work or our home to school and back. Energy is everything. Again, if you want food created on an industrial scale, we need diesel fuel to drive tractors that pull and cultivate land incredibly efficiently and inexpensively. Imagine how much your food would cost if you had to pay 1,000 men a day to farm a field versus having one tractor and one driver go out there and drive. There's a much bigger cost difference. Imagine what your grocery bill would cost you. How it would affect your lifestyle if it was 10 times or 20 times higher. by killing our fuel, killing our energy. That's exactly what we're getting, folks. Unbelievable. We should be more efficient, right? Energy should be cheaper, not more expensive. Well, of course, inflation, they're destroying the currency value. Is that why, fuel is more expensive? Of course, that's a big part of it. They're destroying our currency as well as destroying our energy independence and our energy standard of living. Oh yeah, they're definitely doing all they can. And are you doing all you can to stay prepared? Let's see who is up next. Who have we got on this Sunday Night Live? It is none other from the Netherlands himself. It is Remy Marsh with €20, a €20 super chat donation. And I can't believe you just said that, man. Most people worry about what soccer team is go champion. Who's going to win the championship? That's what people are worried about in Europe. Are you kidding me, man? And I think the answer is no. Remy is not kidding. Right? Now in America, Remy, professional sports, the American sport of choice really is football. But you also have baseball, the American pastime, and National Basketball League, which had its heyday, but it's past, and then hockey as well. Like, those are our big four, if you will. And because of the woke, socialist, anti-America, anti-freedom agenda, guess what? People here, well, about half the population no longer gives a flying fuck. No one gives a shit. No one cares. But yeah, you could look around, and if you watch TV, Remy, you would think that America just is in love with football and baseball and basketball and hockey, when they're not. They couldn't care less, a lot of us. Now, there's enough out there, and of course, they're still pushing it on television. But imagine this. Imagine the television showing all of its viewers commercials for sports. Only about half the people are even watching anymore. People aren't watching television the way they used to. Not at all. Now they're watching shows like this one and other channels on the internet, other social media that is telling them about things they're more interested in. I mean, what's more interesting? Discussing world affairs and what's going to affect you in your house, in your country in the next 10 days, the next 30 days? Or do you give a shit about, I don't know, a sports team? Now, I mean, I myself was a big athlete when I was younger. And I played rugby for the Marine Corps. I was a big athlete. I played basketball in school. I played baseball in school. Just for fun. I loved football. I never got into it, on the team level. But I did play rugby, and that's a rough fucking sport. But as I got older, I realized at one point, I thought, I feel bad when my team loses. And I feel great and fantastic when they win. But why should I tie my emotional security, my happiness to a sports team? And so, as I get older, I give a shit less about sports. It's entertaining to watch. It's fun to see other athletes compete. But really, is it more important than what we're talking about right now? Not at all. I watched zero sports this weekend. But Remy is correct. Many, 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 many Europeans still won't get over football or soccer, as we call it here in America. And Americans, by and large, still love their sports, but the more they push their woke crap, their anti-America shit, they're taking a knee, right? Why don't they have drag queens at the 50-yard line on Super Bowl Sunday on the halftime show? Why not have drag queens there? Hell, they got them in the military bases. They're letting kids attend drag queen, strip clubs. They're doing some awful shit. Why not have it right there on the Super Bowl on the 50-yard line? I mean, folks, for the past 10 years at least, people have been noticing the, shall we say, ritualistic sickness in sports being demonstrated in their pre-game shows and halftime shows and post-game shows and wrap-ups. Oh, it's there. It truly is. All right, let's do this. What do we want to talk about next? Who wants to step up next? Who has some information, a question, a comment, a statement? Who has something really worth getting into? And it is Chin Music with a $9.99 super chat donation. He's John. Totally forgot to give you congrats on the Friday show. It was 100 proof. I laughed my freedom-loving Irish arse off. That phone, but needs to be a regular gig. Hold on a second there. Hello, this is John. Yeah, I tell you, I had a lot of fun using the simulated phone call, right, just to demonstrate how ridiculous and stupid these people are. Thank you, Chen. It was. Are we supposed to believe the shit that they're telling us? Right. Unbelievable, right? I mean, let me just go this way with it, right? Russia is continuing, and earlier I said, Russia's bad, Ukraine's bad, U.S. is bad. They're all assholes, all these government leaders, right? But massive Russian strikes, right? Military strikes. They've left now 1.5 million Ukrainians without power, and they are having phased blackouts in Kiev, right? So, I mean, here's a simulated phone call to Zelensky, right? Ring, ring, ring. Hello, this is Vladimir Zelensky. What can I do for you? Oh, it's the U.S. media. Yeah. All of this is Russia's fault. It's all Putin, really. No. I mean, you could ask that question, but remember, you come over here, we'll arrest you. No one is allowed to question our integrity because I'm Voldemort Zelensky. What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't get elected? The CIA had everything to do with me coming to power. Yes, but really, the elections are fair. Yeah, I'm telling you. But this is all Putin's fault. It has nothing to do with us trying to bring NATO into the country. Has nothing to do with Kiev. Has nothing to do with Ukraine. Has nothing to do with the Azov Battalion. No, I'm telling you, the Azov Battalion, look, I've heard the accusations that they've committed war crimes, war atrocities, but it is what it is, okay? So let's just forget about that and not talk about that. And let's focus on Putin and Russia because they're truly the bad guys here. Hey, put those stacks of cash over there. Put them over there. Separate the 100s from the 20s, please. Yeah. Because I went to Italy last week, but this next week I'm going to Greece. Yeah. 1 second. I just had to take care of a little bit of bureaucratic red tape there. Yes, I'm going to the island of Lesbos. No, I'm not a lesbian. I'm Zelensky. Okay, bye-bye. How's that? I mean, it's great. Yeah, and that way I can take a special license to impersonate these people. But unbelievable. Let's do this. Let's move on. Jolene, who do we have up next as we finish out the second hour? It is Bonnie Blue 2A with a $49.99 super chat donation. And she has a serious message. And that is to please pray for rain in the Midwest. Cover fires being sparked by combines that are harvesting. Half the small village of Woolridge, Missouri, destroyed yesterday. Aquifer levels dropping across the Plains states. Folks, I don't wear my religion on my sleeve. I don't wear my spirituality on my sleeve, but I do know that prayer works. I do know that. It does work. And from time to time, I, at the very least, ask people to have good thoughts, kind thoughts for others, as well as pray. In this case, folks, the whole world is coming down. The Midwest, right? Water levels dropping, aquifer levels dropping. We don't have the rain. You know what that means? Don't pretend that what happens in the Midwest doesn't affect you if you live out west or on the East Coast or down south. It has everything to do with you and I. The Midwest creates massive amounts of food for us and livestock. Right? We all rely on each other, not only in the United States of America, but around the world. Around the world. Europeans rely on us and we rely on Europeans. This is the part that kills me, right? The World Economic Forum, folks, Right? They're doing everything they can to make our lives harder. They're starting wars. They're causing international pissing matches. They're causing nations to say, hey, we're going to have to hold on to what we have because we can't be certain that somebody else, right, will provide for us. So rather than sharing and working together, countries are, how do we say this? Right, looking out for themselves and to the detriment of others. It is horrible. And I really think that when the world stops this nonsense, we will be fine. But at the same time, who's responsible for this nonsense? Not you and me. It's not Remy over in the Netherlands. No, it's not Australia causing this. It's not the people anywhere. But we do have, I think, the power of prayer on our side. Right? Thinking good thoughts, having goodwill towards our fellow men. But we do need to take action against our leadership because they're not truly leading anything. They're leaders in destruction, in my opinion. They're not trying to help anyone other than themselves. So yeah, prayer and good thoughts, but we're also going to have to take action. Please pray for those in need, but take action. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for your fellow man. Right? Call, write, email, text. Everyone in Washington, D.C. and around the country, yeah, do that. And around the world, contact your politicians and let them know what you want and what you expect. Make your will known to them. By doing that, folks, well, they can't say they didn't hear, they didn't know. They can't pretend like they're getting away with it. I'm sure a lot of them like to think, no one's paying attention to me. I'm just a little congressman, right? They're watching the news and worrying about Biden, or they're watching the news and worrying about Zelensky and worrying about Putin, right? When you send your congressman or your senator a letter, they won't likely read it and take it to heart. But someone in their office is going to tell them, hey, we got 1,000 emails today from people pissed off. You know, people like Turtle McConnell, right? Mitch McConnell. Senator Mitch McConnell, I'm sure, gets a lot of hate mail. Does he give a shit? No. He honestly doesn't. He couldn't give a frog's fat ass. But he certainly knows, doesn't he? There's going to be a lot of people who will bear testimony against him when the time comes. I think that we have a responsibility to put pressure on them and to also care for our fellow man. All right, let's move on if we shall. Jolene, what do we have next? We've got Diorce with a 1911 Super Chat donation. He says, I'm not a 1911 fanboy. In fact, I went to the Tanner Gun Show with hopes of buying another Beretta M91A1 or a 92 FS, but instead bought a European American Armory 1911 Cerakoted in Coyote Tan. Very nice, man. That is awesome. European American Armory 1911 Cerakoted. That is ceramic coated in Coyote Tan. I tell you, that's probably a beautiful gun. I like the 1911. We're going to do a little weapons talk here, folks. The 1911 was the year that that gun was created, over 100 years ago, and it is still one of the most coveted and beloved guns. It's an incredible weapon, especially when you get one that is slick. I love my Series 70 Gold Cup in 45 ACP. I find it hard to look at any other gun and think that it can shoot better, more accurately, etc. But, you know, everyone has their beliefs. Everyone has their favorites. And I'll tell you, Diorce, have yours, right? A lot of people love their Berettas. A lot of people love their Glocks. But if you, and I'm going to use this term loosely, fall in love with your weapon, then likely you'll spend more time with it. You'll practice with it more. You'll be more competent, more careful, more thorough when you clean it, more accurate when you shoot it. And that is a damn good thing because, well, as Cottage Farm said, we have 25 days left. 25 days of diesel fuel left. And this week or last week's stupidity, when the jackass decided to approach me rather, shall we say, carelessly with regard to an air hose. I realized yet again how quickly people can turn on you from a seemingly harmless person to a enraged, moronic animal. It's like, dude, who are you talking to? That question is going to be something that you ask yourself when shit hits the fan. When there's no diesel, how many people do you think are going to lose their temper? When there's no food in the store, how many people do you think are going to lose their shit? Oh, it happens. It happens. So get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and that means of self-defense. Whether it's a 1911 or a Smith & Wesson Model 686 with a 6-inch barrel and silhouette sights and a hair trigger. Yeah, folks, I tell you. Self-defense is a fun thing to practice with, but it is a very important and sobering concept that we have to consider as we get closer to a nasty time and deeper into SHTF. Okay, and I know that Jolene has some more for me, but I wanted to cover this very quickly, and I touched on it a few minutes ago when I said, yeah, we should have drag queens on the 50-yard line halftime at Super Bowl Sunday, right? Lara Logan was banned from Newsmax. Newsmax is supposed to be an ultra-conservative news service. Well, she was arguing that good will defeat evil, that Satan will not win, that globalists want us eating bugs while they dine on blood of children, right? Now, we know some of that is true, right? Good will defeat evil. A lot of people don't want to believe that Satan is real. And we know that globalists want us to eat bugs. They've said so. Eat the bugs. You will own nothing and you'll be happy, right? And then to say that they dine on the blood of children. Well, I don't have any personal evidence of that, right? I have reports, anecdotal information, but I do know that these globalists want children destroying themselves. The reason I know that is because that's what's happening, right? That's what's happening. Children are mutilating themselves or going to doctors and mutilating themselves. They're going to Planned Parenthood, according to many reports, and getting free, without a prescription, without their parents' knowledge, puberty blockers. But it's interesting that Lara Logan would be banned from Newsmax for making these claims, however true or ridiculous, or shall we just say, just off the hook, right? But how is saying that worse than the news, education, legal system, politicians saying that drag queens having children grope them during a show is just fine? No one's banning them on their channels. Unbelievable, folks, what we're dealing with and facing in this world, huh? Unbelievable. Okay, Jolene, let's move on, if we shall, and get off of my ridiculous topics. And this is what Boomer21 wants to talk about. And he has a Canadian $5 super chat donation. And he says, I used to be a sports junkie and always did my Sunday football bets. Now I don't even know who won the Super Bowl last year. Well, I think it was a team. The Super Bowl, I think that was the San Francisco Giants or maybe it was Manchester United. I can't remember either, man. And truthfully, really, I can't remember. Was it Kansas City? I can't remember. Maybe it was Kansas City. I can't remember because personally, I don't give a shit, right? Because if it mattered, right, Boomer, if who won the Super Bowl last year really mattered, then it would make my life better. It would enhance my life. I would be, healthier. That's important. Your health is important. So does who wins the Super Bowl improve our health or improve our financial status or improve our children's education or make the world more peaceful? No. Those really important things, sports doesn't do a bit to help. So I don't pay any attention to them because I barely have enough time and energy and resources to deal with the things that really do matter. Like whether or not we have world peace or world fucking war 4 coming up. We're already in 3. I mean, if you don't understand that we're already in World War 3, you just have to pay a little closer attention. We're in a cyber war. We're in an information war. We're in a monetary war. Right? We're in a food war. We're in a political war. We are in a massive war right now, folks. In this show, we're well over 600 people live, 90 minutes into the broadcast. That is incredible. And I want to thank all of you for being here. If you're just now checking in, if someone just sent you that internet address up there, do me a favor, hit subscribe, thumbs up, and then you share that address with people you know. And let's keep it going. And let's see who we have up next. Jolene, who do we have up next? It's Opie Waddell, who is a longtime viewer and contributor with a $5 super chat donation. And he says, SCRM, McDonough, Georgia, $140 a month, 4 pickups a month each Friday morning. Tell them Opie sent you hundreds of pounds of food. Southern Crescent Resource Ministry. That's a church. That's a church, right? $140 a month, 4 pickups a month each Friday morning. Tell them Opie sent you hundreds of pounds of food. Folks, this is also interesting. It's interesting to note that there are really good people out there who are donating food, time, energy, effort to trying to make this world a better place. I commend them. I applaud them. It's incredible, folks. It's absolutely incredible how generous people are in America, in Europe, in Australia, in Canada. And what do we have in our way, in our face? Opposition from the government. Unbelievable. Up in Canada, Justin Trudeau has decided he's going to make it illegal to buy, sell, or trade handguns. And I thought, okay, the people, right? Just like people want to donate food, people want to help their neighbor. There's this huge effort for people to help one another and help each other. And it's being completely stopped, interfered with by the government, the governments around the world. Right? They tax us. They cut off our energy supplies. They interfere in infrastructure and commerce. What does the government do to make food more available? Right? What do people do to make food more available? Well, they grow food on the farms. They try and grow it in their backyards and their front yards. And what does the government do? They try saying, you don't have, we have prohibitions against that. You can't grow your own food. Right? Unbelievable what is going on. I would really like to see more family farms. I would love to see more community and neighborhood farms popping up. Right? It's going to be incredibly difficult, folks, to see what happens. You know, water is an issue. Water is a huge resource, right? You know, I wanted to remind everyone, right? These were sent to me. These are red chili pistachios that were sent to me, and I'm afraid to eat them because I was told I better have a lot of cold beer on hand, right? These are from Eagle Ranch in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Right? We need water in New Mexico. We need water in Arizona. We need water everywhere. Now, is it a drought or is it government screwing with our weather? What do you think? Literally, what do you think is creating the problems in our world? The government wants to use weather as a weapon. They've said so. Government uses weather politically. Right? Joe Biden went to Florida after the hurricane came through and said, yeah, there's no longer a question, right? Global climate change is man-made because a hurricane hit, Florida. Everything is politicized and is politicized against us. Unbelievable where we are at in this world. Okay. If we shall, you guys are just continuing to just roll with the questions. And it is now Backcountry Preps. My friend Vaughn out there in San Diego, California with a $10 super chat donation. And by the way, I enjoyed that, seeing that picture you sent out, man. Yeah, you got some fur on your chest there, buddy. Anyways, he says, this is what Vaughn says. We all know that the upcoming midterms will cause severe division. Do you foresee violence in the streets after the elections, no matter how they are portrayed, to turn out? Vaughn, that is a loaded question, brother. Now, we already have what I would call severe division. If we didn't have division between people who want freedom and people who want liberty, right, we could get along with them. We could say, hey, we understand you want higher taxes, but it's our money, and we say no. And at least you can have a conversation. Really, well, if you got my money, what would you do with it? Or they would say, look, if we had some more of your money, these are the things we would do with it that you might agree to. And so maybe you would agree to give us some more of your money in the form of taxation. We can't even have those conversations anymore. Severe division occurred fucking years ago, right, Vaughn? When was the last time you were able to have an intelligent conversation with a Democrat? No. There is a chasm bigger than the Grand Canyon between both sides because they're polar opposite. You and I haven't changed, Vaughn. The rest of the audience and we have not changed. We want our freedom and liberties. First, foremost, and forever, the right to free speech. It is not up for question. It's not up for debate. It's not up for a fucking vote. It is a right. Self-defense, the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed, is not up for a vote or debate. It is a right, and it is eternal. They think that they can vote on anything and take whatever they want. They think they can silence you using whatever means and methods you want, or they want. It's just not... There is no discussion to have because they want to take everything and take, well, your money, your property, your standard of living. They'll take your life. They don't give a fuck. So, continuing Backcountry Prep's comments, the midterms will not just cause severe division. It will cement, it will petrify the divisiveness that has been installed by the Democrats wanting to take that which is ours and take it for themselves. I do foresee violence in the streets. It's already occurring. This weekend, I caught reports, once again, of people using violence to attack charitable groups. People pushed onto the subway tracks in front of trains for no reason. For no reason at all. Right? Because the whole world has been politicized. And they've used all of these things that I'm going to mention as their tools. Race, religion, age, gender. They just, and everything. Everything is used to divide us and to conquer the system, the game. Right? I don't understand how someone's color is used as an excuse just to kill them without cause, without knowing them, without knowing anything about them. I don't get it. To see someone who's weak and then say, well, I'm going to victimize them because that's what I do. Right? And then they don't have any problem with it. And I do liken Democrats to criminals because criminals have no concern about other people's lives, the problems that they're going to cause by assaulting them. They think that if they can get away with it, then it's worth doing. It's worth the risk. That's what they think. Democrats are the same way. They will lie, cheat, and steal. What do they care? Because it's worth the risk of getting away with it, and the odds if they get caught are they're not going to jail anyway. Just like these street criminals, they're being told, "Hey, you're not going to jail. Steal as much as you want. Assault people, beat people." Right? There's a story came out this weekend. Some lady shot a firefighter, executed him, and the district attorney said, "No, that was self-defense. He was fighting someone else," and she just blasted away at him and called it self-defense. I mean, but if you were to, have a burglar break into your house, if you were in a Democrat city and you used a gun, they'd probably prosecute you. I mean, the McClotskys, the cul-de-sac commandos, they didn't shoot anybody. They didn't shoot anybody. They just stood on their lawn with their firearms to defend themselves. They didn't shoot anybody while they were being threatened, that their house was being threatened with arson, their pets were being threatened with pet murder, and they were being threatened. You know, they were investigated and they were prosecuted and they were found guilty. You know, they had their guns taken from them. Unbelievable, folks. Where are we at now? Right? Yeah. Divisiveness, you bet, Vaughn. Violence, it is coming. And how do they trip it off? They've been trying, and I've been surprised that people aren't really biting. Right? They've pushed the race game. They've pushed the ecology, the environment. They pushed that, looking for violence. They're pushing all the buttons they can. I don't know why we aren't having more violence. But it could be, as Ramey and others have brought up, that, well, they're just doing too well. Right? We had Tim say, oh, yeah, they're just buying stuff. Things are bad. They're worried about getting cold. They're worried about freezing to death, but they're still spending money just anywhere they feel like. No big deal. Unbelievable. And we have an incredible number of comments on the board, well over 1,000. You guys have had one hell of a show here. We're at 1 hour and 40 minutes. We got about, well, just under 20 minutes left. If you have a question, a comment, a thought, a concern, if you think there's a news story out there that needs more attention, something wrong in the world that we haven't discussed, something we need to get into a little deeper, all you got to do is hit that super chat button or PayPal or sorry about that, or Cash App, whatever it takes, right? And you will get your comment up here. Your funding, folks, of the Prepared Mind Network keeps us going. And I want to thank you for it. Now, I covered Justin Turdho, right? Canadians can no longer legally buy, sell, or transfer handguns. What's interesting is what makes him think anyone is willing to sell handguns in Canada, right? They know that their rights are being infringed upon. The people of Canada realize it. Now, I mean, a gun store is going to be the one who sells. But yeah, they're doing all they can to take our rights, folks. Canada is in the midst of nothing but trouble. And I wish our Canadian brethren and sisters up there the best of luck, right? It's incredible, folks. It is incredible what's going on as these politicians try and destroy everything. Right? Now, Katie Hobbs, the big chicken who refuses to debate Carrie Lake, is threatening to sue Cochise County, right, if they try and have a hand count. Now, the county supervisors say if we don't do that, we're going to have George Soros for governor, right, if we elect Katie Hobbs. Would you rather, let me put the question to you this way. Would you rather have a hand count and have an accurate election, or would you rather, run from someone like Katie Hobbs? You see, this is what these politicians do. They threaten everybody. They make everyone's life hell. And then they hope that everyone backs down. Now, I think it's great that in Cochise County that the supervisor is saying, hey, we're going to have George Soros for governor if we elect her, or if we allow her to steal the election. And that's just it. What do you think happens when these tyrants take office, folks? If you back down to Katie Hobbs, right, you get George Soros. If you back down to Katie Hobbs, then you get, guess what? Gavin Newsom. In California, Gavin Newsom is acting as much like a tyrant as he can get away with. Same with who, right? Gretchen the Grinch Whitmore up in Michigan. Or you get Pritzker. Or you get any number of these Democrat governors. If you give in, right, to Katie Hobbs, right, would you rather put up with her as governor or put up with her trying to sue you for doing what you're legally supposed to do, and that's have a fair, free election? But that's what they'll do. They're going to fight to the death, folks. They are. I mean, get this. This is the typical Democrat behavior. Now, down there in Florida, they've got this Democrat candidate named Charlie Crist, right? And he's running against Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis is beloved by the people of Florida. In fact, he's beloved by people around the country and probably around the world for his statements, sticking up for children, sticking up for their rights, sticking up for morality and decency. I can't see any way that anyone is going to defeat Governor DeSantis. But Charlie Crist is trying, right? Anyways, the typical Democrat behavior, like Katie Hobbs, well, is to threaten to sue everybody that would try and interfere with her, taking office. Well, Charlie Crist's campaign manager resigned the other day. Well, he was arrested for domestic assault. This is typical of these people, folks. It's typical, modern, immoral Democrat behavior. Is there a difference between Republicans and Democrats? Yes. I just talked a few minutes ago about Democrats and criminals. What do they have in common? They couldn't give a shit about the law. They don't care about the law for you, and they don't care about the law stopping them from committing crimes. Do you think Nancy Pelosi isn't involved in the shadiest, nastiest international deals? Why would she risk her life taking a USA, a jet we pay for and the fuel, and flying over to Taiwan to do a couple of deals? Right? She risked creating an international incident. In fact, she created an international incident. Luckily, it wasn't a military incident, but it got close. Right? They'll do anything, and they just don't give a shit. They really, really don't. Unfreaking believable. I mean, this is the mentality these people have. You want some more? I'll give you some more. Sandy Hook, the families there, they were awarded what, $965 million? $965 million, almost $1 billion in damages from Alex Jones. Guess what they want now? Literally, folks, they want 2.75, not billion, which would be almost 3 times what the judge awarded them. They want 3,000 times what the judge awarded them. They now want $2.75 trillion in damages from Alex Jones. I have a hard time believing Alex Jones is a comfortable millionaire. He may have a few $1 million, and the crazy bastard's earned it. Right? I'm sure he's earned it. He's stuck his neck out, sounded like a crazy, radical, wacko, right-wing lunatic, and been right a lot of the times along the way. Is he a billionaire? I don't think so. Does he have $965 million to pay? No. Does he have 3,000 times that? $2.75 trillion? Folks, Elon Musk, owner of Tesla, right, is scraping and scrapping and calling in friends and getting loans and investors and getting banks involved to get a mere $44 billion to buy Twitter. $44 billion to buy Twitter. Do you know how many Twitters it takes to make $1 trillion? About 50. 50 Twitters to make $1 trillion, and they want 2.75 trillion. What do they think they're doing? Right? There is no basis in any law for such ridiculous claims. Nowhere. Yet that is the Democrat mentality. They will squeeze blood from a turnip, from a rock, if they could. They're nuts. Anyways, let's move on. Jolene, who do we have up next with a Super Chat donation? And Super Chat donations are you guys. What you want to talk about on Sunday Night Live, it's your turn. And it's Brad Junes with a $2 Super Chat donation. And he says, what's going on with the dollar, John? I'll tell you what. Currencies around the world are in shock. Shock and awe. The economies around the world are damaged heavily by what is being done by Biden and the European Union. They're damaged by what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. They're being damaged by what's happening in China. It's not just, right, food. It's not just weapons of war. It's not just the military. It's not just, right, any one thing. It's everything. It is the aggregate or combined bullshit that's being done to every country. Now, the United States dollar is the world reserve currency. And what's it based on? Well, it's based on the American people's willingness to pay their debt, their taxes. Right? In God we trust. All others must pay. The dollar is collapsing. What do you mean, John? What do you mean the dollar's collapsing? In fact, gold is going down, meaning the dollar is stronger than gold even. It's coming down. Well, no, sorry. Gold and the price of it is based on how willing they are to manipulate the price down on the paper market. So gold is no reflection of the dollar at this time. What is a reflection of the value of the dollar is what does it purchase for you? The dollar is buying less today than ever. Inflation is incredible, meaning the dollar is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Yet, compared to other currencies, the dollar appears to be strong. That just goes to show you not that the United States is in great shape. Look around. We know the United States is not great shape. 25 days of diesel left, inflation out of control, run by a bunch of political retards. The Federal Reserve doesn't know its ass from a hole in the ground. As everything's falling apart, they're promising to raise interest rates yet again, possibly another 75 basis points or 0.75%. Right? Yes, you want to buy a home, it's going to cost you 7%, 8% interest. We haven't seen those numbers, folks, in decades. Right? They've really screwed up the entire system. So what's with the US dollar? Why does it look so good? Because other nations are even worse off than we are. This is the Great Reset, folks. It's not just about military conquering. It's not just about information and communications. It's not just about education or medicine or germ warfare. The Great Reset is about everything, including the destruction of currencies, the destruction of national sovereignty, the destructions of our food supply, the destruction of our morality, our traditions, and our culture. I mean, if they continue to have their way, folks, in 10 years, Santa Claus will be a cross-dressing. That's right. In 10 years, Santa Claus will be a cross-dressing drag queen. And they'll tell us, well, he's always been that way. It's just evil right-wing Republicans tried making him do a fat, jolly old, shall we say, generous old fart. Right? Crazy, folks. Crazy. I mean, the world is nuts. I mean, even Ralph Lauren is buying into this stupidity. Right? They apologize because the Mexican president's wife criticized them for cultural appropriation of an indigenous design, meaning they plagiarized Hispanic garments and blankets. Right now, I think Ralph Lauren is idiotic for apologizing because it's just going to encourage more of the stupidity, right? And get this, a culture doesn't own anything. Cultural appropriation, a culture doesn't own anything. There is no design owner for Mexican blankets, right? And the indigenous people of Central America didn't even have these clothing materials and designs on their own. They're a mixture of French, Spanish, and other influences. I mean, we like to think of the Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And that it's the English down there and the Spanish. Well, it was the English, the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Italians. Unbelievable. Right? Every culture in Europe that had a ship. Oh, yeah. Also Sweden and Norway. They had islands in the Caribbean. Everyone had a piece of Latin country, and at different times they all owned Mexico and Central American countries and South American countries. These people are morons, but they want to kill our culture, right? And then claim that someone's culturally appropriating someone and using it in their fashion. Just unbelievable, stupid shit, right? Unbelievable, stupid shit. You want some more? I'll give you some more. You want some more? Joe Biden, jackass Joe. Guess what he did? In order to help win this election for Democrats, to create more support for Democrats, he recruited a transgender activist. Folks, these Democrats, these globalist fools are a bunch of freak show carnival barkers. In fact, freak show carnival barkers are embarrassed at the shit these people are putting up. You know what this transgender activist has? You know what his claim to fame is? Is he wants to, quote, normalize women having bulges. If you've got a bulge, you're not a woman. If you have a bulge, you're not a woman. You're a guy pretending to be one. But that is what they believe, folks. That's how crazy these people are. 4 years ago, this would be unthinkable. 10 years ago, you would be laughed out of politics. 20 years ago, you wouldn't even make it into the nomination process. 30 years ago, you would have been labeled criminally insane. Today, I think these people, Joe Biden and this transgender ding-dong who wants to normalize women having bulges, they are insane. But there's no crime against insanity. But I think there should be a crime for what they're doing, right? They are causing the destruction of America, the destruction of our country. And it is incredibly disturbing and embarrassing and frightening. Okay, Jolene, who do we have next? We have Penelope Binkley with a 22.25, 22.250. Thank you, Penelope. That's a great caliber. She says, do you think that the January 6th committee was convened in order to keep everyone from protesting at the risk of being arrested and held in horrible conditions? The answer absolutely is yes. The January 6th protest was met with government, shall we say, false flag activity. They had agents in the crowd. They had agents provocateur. They had the police get out of line. And that was used to create the appearance that the protesters who were in support of our nation are evil. And then they wanted to show that, yeah, we can round them up. We can find you. We can arrest everybody and keep you in jail indefinitely. And that is one hell of a threat. That is politically chilling, folks, to the greatest degree possible. During the time of the ruling French monarchs, the Louis, right? They used this sort of thing. They kept the Bastille, a political prison in the middle of Paris. They kept it always fully loaded with political criminals, or should we say political dissidents. But disagreeing with the king of France is a crime, right? King of England, throughout history, kings and queens of England, same thing, right? They had political prisons where they kept them packed with people who could not have trials or were found guilty in mock trials, kangaroo court. The purpose of that is to convince people, hey, you want to sound off, you want to speak up, you want to cause trouble, we'll just come and arrest you and throw your ass in prison. Think about it. I'll tell you right now, I am not going to Washington, D.C. to protest anything because they could falsify charges, create false evidence, arrest me, and I would never see sunshine again. They could keep me locked up in the filthiest cell with the toilet backing up constantly, spewing sewage everywhere. They could come to my cell and beat the ever-loving snot out of me every day and get away with it. You think I'm going to protest a bit up in Washington, D.C.? Not a fucking chance. That's exactly why they're doing what they're doing and why they're using the January 6th committee to continue to convince people that something criminal happened when it didn't. Actually, there's something criminal did happen, and it's by the government. Our government, folks, in Washington, D.C. is criminal. Now, calling it that is not new. I am not doing anything, right, that hasn't been done or said about this government. Not just this year or last year since Trump lost the election. But D.C. has been called the District of Criminals for decades because of all the theft, graft, bribery, extortion, and corruption that has gone on there for decades and decades and decades. It's just now it is off the hook. It truly is. It's off the hook. And if you dare protest, look at what Penelope just wrote. Thank you, Jolene. Right? They want to keep everyone from protesting because of fear of being arrested and held indefinitely in prison in horrible conditions while you have your rights violated. I won't protest there, but try and take my Second Amendment. Try and stop me and my First Amendment. Try and violate my Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. And we'll see how this ends. Folks, we're all going to die. We're all going to die, but how are you going to die? I would like to die an old man with lots of grandchildren and maybe even great-grandchildren. I would like to die knowing that my country is a free place, and it's more free because of the things I did. But I'm not willing to live as a slave. No, I am not. I'm not willing to live as a slave. Especially to these corrupt, sick people. Unbelievable, folks, how corrupt and evil they are. Right? Here we go. I want to touch on this. All right, President Trump was in Texas, and it was a rally in tribute to the January 6th prisoners. And the crowd broke into and started singing the national anthem. When I read that, folks, it really touched me. Right? People in this country and around the world are crying out for decency. They're crying out for their rights. Right? They're crying out for their nations to be saved, for their cultures and traditions to be respected and upheld. It's getting louder. Right? It's going to reach a fevered pitch. As Vaughn pointed out earlier, right? Is there going to be violence over this? By both sides, yes. There is no choice, right? Because both sides are standing firm on what they want. On our side, we want to be free and left alone, have our rights respected and our country preserved. The other side wants to destroy our country and take our rights and our property and our lives and every choice. Right? I'm not going to live as a slave to these people, though. What's the point? What's the point of being a slave? Just to live, just to breathe for the benefit of someone else? To live at someone else's whim? Not me. No. I've made that decision a few times in my life. Right? I've said, am I going to continue to live like this? Am I going to tolerate these conditions? Or am I going to suffer and fight and pay for my freedom and liberty? And I've done it on many different levels, folks. I'm still here. I'm still alive, and I'm still fighting. And I'm still free. And I'm free up here. If you are a prepper and you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense, then you are more free than anyone else because you're thinking for yourself and you're seeing what's out there. All right, we got another super chat donation, says Jolene, and it is Darrener P1 with a $20 super chat donation. And he says, no bulges. And that's how I prefer my women, with no bulges. Men have bulges, women don't. If you're a chick and you've got a bulge, you're not a chick, right? Women are supposed to have bulges on their chests, right? And that's where that one is supposed to end. Thank you very much for the joke, the good laugh, the good humor. And folks, we need to also have good sense, right? And ask yourself, are you willing to live as a slave? What is a slave's lot? What does a slave get? Well, they get only what is given to them, what someone decides. Now, I thought about this over the weekend also, as I was way out in the swamps. I looked up and I heard and saw a jet. And it was one of those Lear jets, one of those private jets. And I thought, the person that can afford to own that jet and fly in that jet, they have a mentality. And it is foreign to me. Now, I know I've known a lot of wealthy people, folks. And a lot of them have very good hearts. But we also know a lot of them are complete and total assholes. Right? Bill Gates and George Soros and Zark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, the Clintons, right? There's John Kerry. There's a lot of assholes out there, right? And I've said that what they want is they want to take away from you and me our ability to have a good life, to have a standard of living that is acceptable and comfortable. So I looked up at this jet and I thought, that's exactly what they want. They want all of us pissants on the ground, unable to travel and go where we want. They want to be able to fly over the top of us, these rich, annoying, elitist assholes. And they want everyone to hear, hey, that's the first jet I've heard today. They don't want a bunch of jets in the sky with people flying everywhere. They want just them up there so that we wish, right, that we could be like them. So we could know that, yeah, the person flying up there, they're super important, right? They're better than us because they can do that. That's the thought they have, is they look down at us and they're looking down on us. And they go, look at all those peons down there. I'm above them all. I'm better than them. I'm flying in this jet, right? They are peasants and I am superior. That's what these people think, folks, as they fly around in their jets. Now, again, some of them are good, but a great deal of them are giant assholes. I meet the giant assholes too, folks. They're out there, right? And they're causing all of these bad things to happen in this world. And there's good people fighting them, good people like you and good people like these states that are telling BlackRock, go fuck yourself with their investments. And they're pulling their funding out of their giant hedge funds, because these giant hedge funds want ESG, which means the destruction of America and our standard of living. That's exactly what ESG is, folks. It's the destruction of the American way of life. Environmental social governance is the destruction of the standard of living for everyone, except for the super wealthy. All right. I tell you what, I think I'm going to call it a night. And I want to thank everyone for participating and joining in and enjoying the conversation, the camaraderie, fellowship, and for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your information. And we'll be back. In fact, I'll be back bright and early when I do 0 Dark 30. And that little promo at the very beginning of the video, I don't have that car or anything even remotely like it. But I want to thank Mr. T for putting that together for me. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind is yours. And aren't you glad you are a prepper? Godspeed. Semper Fi. I'll be back.